The Philadelphia Eagles are a team whose strength is currently on the offensive side of the ball, but just because this is their strength, that doesn't mean they don't want to continue to add to it, as the team has made it clear in the past that they know offenses are what dominates in this league, and with the NFL draft approaching, they have the perfect opportunity to further solidify their offense for this season and for years to come, and we've heard rumors that they could be looking to do just that, whether that be by drafting someone early in the first round or by making a huge blockbuster trade, we don't know, but in this video, we're going to look at some of the possible scenarios for the Eagles in which they can upgrade their offense through this draft. But before we do that, if you want to see more consistent Eagles content like this, go subscribe right now and turn on notifications. We're going to be live for the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, so again, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Now with that being said, let's get into this video. So like I just said, the NFL draft begins on Thursday, and things could get crazy really fast for the Eagles as there's a lot of different things that they could do in this draft. They have 2 first-round selections and 4 top 100 picks overall, so obviously they have the draft capital to make some big and impactful additions to their team, and I feel like more so this year than in years past, the Eagles' plan for this draft is pretty unpredictable, and I feel like nobody really knows what the Eagles are going to do, but Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie may have dropped us a hint in regards to that just under a month ago.
Offenses dominate in this league, and that's why we've always focused more resource allocation, on making sure we have an outstanding offense, because it is very hard to stop. We've always wanted to have dynamic offense and know that you can have a really good defense, but it's very hard to stop a really dynamic offense.
And obviously we've talked about this clip on this channel before, and it doesn't mean the Eagles are 100% going to go offense in the first round of this draft, but it definitely makes you think that that possibility is a reality, and it definitely would not be shocking if the Eagles did decide to take an offensive player early in this draft, and right now there's a lot of rumors floating around that make it seem like that's the direction the Eagles want to go. So let's talk about some of the potential options for the Eagles should they go and decide to try to significantly upgrade their offense in this draft. So the first guy we absolutely have to mention in this video is Bijan Robinson, and obviously this guy has been the talk of Philly for a while now, as the running back from Texas is no doubt one of the top prospects in the NFL draft. I've seen multiple people have him in the top 3 to 5 guys in this entire draft class, and it's for good reason, because this guy is an absolute superstar, and he's going to be a game changer for whatever team decides to take him. Now the problem with Bijan Robinson is that he plays one of the least valued positions in the sport, and that is the running back position. And it's for that reason that I feel like it's pretty likely he's going to be there at 10 when the Eagles are on the clock, which obviously gives them the opportunity to select them. And I feel like it's pretty clear that Eagles fans are torn on this possibility. There's the group that says this is a fantastic move and it would make the offense unstoppable. And then there's the group that say you don't draft a running back that high. Howie Roseman has never drafted a running back in the first round. It shouldn't happen, and it won't happen. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a little bit now, you know that I'm of the belief that if he's available at 10 and he's the best player on the Eagles draft board at that point, and he's the best player available, the Eagles should 100% take him with the 10th overall selection, and it's for the reason that I mentioned before. I think he makes the Eagles offense completely unstoppable. I mean, he's a guy that's being talked about as the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. He can really do everything out of the backfield, including pass protection, and he can be used in the passing game as well. And if you add him to an Eagles offense that has the best offensive line in the entire NFL with a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's a dual threat quarterback, like you're talking about a running game that's going to be extremely hard to stop for any defense, virtually impossible to stop when you factor in the Eagles' elite pass catchers and all those guys. And then when you think about the fact that Bijan Robinson would be here for 4 to 5 years, giving you elite production from the running back position, should he stay healthy while still in a rookie scale contract, I definitely think it's a no-brainer. And despite the stigma of drafting a running back early in the first round, I think this is one of the exceptions to that rule, and I definitely think it would be a good option. Now that's just my opinion, and you may disagree, but whether you like it or not, it's seeming more and more like this is a real possibility. I mean, just take a listen to Howie Roseman's comments here when he was asked about the possibility of drafting a running back in the first round.
What's your philosophy about running backs in the first round and linebackers, and what would it take for you to take one?
I think the most important thing when you're picking in the first round, certainly when you're picking 10, is that you get a unique player. We understand how important it is to get this right, and how do you get it right is you make sure you get a unique player. And so I think that if you start saying, hey, we can only get a unique player, but it's got to be this position, you really narrow your options right there. And so just trying to be as open-minded as possible about what that looks like, and making sure that whoever we pick is somebody that we think can really impact the game.
And then on top of this, Bijan Robinson said this in a recent interview.
How many interviews have you done? How many teams you met with?
I've been to 2 teams, and like for official visits to their city, only 2 teams.
And those teams are?
The Eagles and the Buccaneers.
The Bijan Robinson to Philly hype is very real, and it's seeming like it's picking up steam in recent days. I mean, Bijan Robinson also reportedly said this to Howie Roseman in their pre-draft visit, quote, "You're not going to get a running back, you're going to get a difference maker." And from what it sounds like, at least based on reports, that pre-draft visit went very, very well, and the Eagles were pretty impressed with Robinson. I'm telling you, man, the Eagles drafting him at 10, no matter what you might want to believe about drafting a running back early, I still think that that would be a good move. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to look back on and be like, man, I really wish we wouldn't have drafted him, because I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to give you elite production. I think he's going to come in right away should he be drafted to the Eagles and make the offense just about as unstoppable as it possibly can be. I definitely think Bijan Robinson being drafted by the Eagles early is a very real possibility, and I would love for that to happen. But even if this doesn't happen, there's still other ways the Eagles could go out and address the offense in the early parts of this draft. One of those ways is by selecting Ohio State wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba in the first round. And this is something that even just a couple days ago I didn't think had any chance of happening, but now there's been reports in recent days saying the Eagles could be a surprise destination for JSN. Tony Pauline says this, quote, "The Philadelphia Eagles are making a late push on the wideout and doing a lot of work on him in recent days." And, you know, my instant reaction to this is just shocking, because the Eagles are a team that already has an elite wide receiver core. I definitely think it would be a big surprise to see the Eagles use the 10th overall pick on another wide receiver when they already have a couple of elite ones. Now, that being said, Jaxon Smith-Njigba is definitely a difference maker. I mean, he's being listed as the best wide receiver in this draft class, and this would obviously give Jalen Hurts another weapon that he could develop his chemistry with and continue to have success with for years to come. And, you know, drafting him would possibly form the best wide receiver core in the entire league with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then at that point, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Now, all this being said, I just don't see this happening. I think the Eagles, you know, they've used a first-round pick on a wide receiver in some form or another over the past 3 seasons, whether that be selecting one in the first round or making a trade involving their first-round pick for a star wide receiver like we saw them do last year. And I just think it would be hard to see them doing it again, especially with the fact that they already have a couple elite receivers on their roster. And since they have the 10th overall pick and they're not going to have that again for a very long time, I just find it hard seeing them take a position in which they've already used a lot of their first-round capital on in recent years, and they could definitely get by and thrive without upgrading at all from what they currently have. And the wide receiver 3 position is a position that's not really used as much in the Eagles offense. I mean, it's hard to see the Eagles use the 10th pick on a guy that'll likely get maybe 5 targets per game at the very most. I mean, Quez Watkins, just for reference, got 3 targets on average per game last season. I just don't see this happening. I think it's a smokescreen, and I think it's just something the Eagles are putting out there to throw other teams off. So yeah, in the end, I don't see Jaxon Smith-Njigba as a realistic possibility for the Eagles. Now, let's say that the Eagles don't make a big splash like Robinson or JSN at the 10th overall spot. Well, there's a couple other options the Eagles could take a look at a little bit later in the draft. Obviously, they have the 30th overall pick, and that might be the perfect spot to select Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs, who most NFL teams view as the second best running back in this class. But according to Dov Kleiman, he says, quote, "Update, a few NFL teams like Alabama's Jahmyr Gibbs over Texas running back Bijan Robinson in 2023 draft," per @Peter King. So Peter King was the original person that said this, but I think that that's really crazy to think about, because like I said earlier, Bijan Robinson is being called the best running back prospect in this class and the best prospect since Saquon Barkley, which I think shows just how good a lot of these teams think Jahmyr Gibbs could be as well, because if you're saying that they value him a little bit over that, I think that says a lot about the potential of Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I don't think the Eagles are one of these teams that values Gibbs higher. They obviously had the pre-draft visit with Robinson, and I think they're kind of starting to trend in the direction of valuing these bigger backs a little bit more. But maybe the Eagles miss out on Bijan Robinson at 10, and they decide to address the defense instead, and they get to 30, and they want to add another offensive weapon. Jahmyr Gibbs would do just that, and I think he's also going to be a difference maker in this league. He would give the Eagles another dynamic playmaker in the backfield behind that Eagles offensive line that's the best in the league, with Jalen Hurts, with those elite pass catchers the Eagles have. I think if the Eagles get to this point, and Jahmyr Gibbs is still there, and he's the highest player on their draft board, the Eagles should 100% take him. I definitely don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is as good as Bijan Robinson, but I still do think he's going to be a very good player, a very productive player in this league. And if the Eagles miss out on Bijan Robinson and Gibbs is still sitting there at 30, I definitely think that would be a good option. Now, let's just say that the Eagles miss out on all these big names early on in the draft. Well, there seems to be another option for the Eagles to make a big splash on the offensive side of the ball during this draft, and it's not by selecting somebody. It's actually by making a blockbuster trade for one of the best players in the entire NFL over the past few seasons, that being Derrick Henry. And these Derrick Henry to the Eagles trade rumors started a while back. Earlier on in the offseason, it was reported that the Tennessee Titans were shopping him to multiple teams, and the Eagles were listed as one of the top landing spots. And now those trade rumors have heated up a little bit in recent days as Akbar Gbaja-Biamila, that's the best I can do on that name, guys, bear with me, said early on Saturday morning that, quote, breaking, move out the way, Derrick Henry is headed to the Eagles. And, when I saw this report, I just thought it was really weird because I had never heard of this Akbar guy in my entire life, and I did a little bit of research on it, and turns out he's not an NFL analyst, he's not a reporter. In fact, he's one of the hosts of American Ninja Warrior, but he does have a little bit of credibility because he is a former NFL player, but more importantly, Akbar shares the same agency as Derrick Henry, so this definitely was interesting because once I thought about it, I really found it hard to believe that he would just go on there randomly on Twitter, like at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night and just completely make this up. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that a trade is imminent because, again, he's not a reporter, he's not an analyst. We don't know how much knowledge he has of the situation, but I do feel like something is probably there because he wouldn't, I don't know why he would just make this up. And obviously with him having the same agency as Henry, maybe somebody told him something and he wanted to be the first to break the news. That was what I thought at the time, but now it seems like, yesterday we have another report refuting that. It was said that the Derrick Henry to the Eagles trade rumors just weren't true at the time, and it was per a source familiar with the matter. Jay Glazer is the one who initially put this out. So again, I just really found this hard to believe because, when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, this guy is a public figure. Why would he just go out of his way to say Derrick Henry's going to the Eagles without at least having any knowledge of it whatsoever? Maybe he's trolling super hard, but, I don't understand what gain he would have from doing that other than just laughing at people going crazy on Twitter. Maybe that's what he wanted to do, and maybe I'm just putting too much stock into something that has no reliability whatsoever. But I also think it's just so weird and out of the blue and random that there's got to be something to it. There might be a part of this that is true. And now what I mean by that is this. No, a trade has not been completed yet, but what I do think it does mean is that there's potential interest from the Eagles in trading for Henry should maybe they miss out on guys like Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit earlier in the draft. And if that does happen, the Eagles might then pull the trigger on a Derrick Henry trade during the draft. So I think that could be for maybe some mid-round picks, like maybe a third-round pick or fourth-round pick and some additional compensation in some form or another. But it definitely does seem like there could be some fireworks in the form of a Derrick Henry to the Eagles trade during the draft. And if this move did happen, I think that would just be absolutely insane. Like Derrick Henry on the Philadelphia Eagles, you put him on this offense. Like Derrick Henry has been the best running back in the league for the past, 4 seasons. He's been so dominant. He's just been absolutely incredible. When you put a guy like that behind the best offensive line in football with a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Hurts and in that read option and RPO game, it's going to be so hard. Like that, there's nobody stopping that offense. I do think I would prefer the Eagles to draft Bijan Robinson because I think you would have him for a little bit longer than Derrick Henry and for cheaper. Plus Derrick Henry's probably on the downhill of his career at this point. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff, but he's definitely going to be steadily declining probably over the next couple seasons if I had to take a guess. So I do think I would prefer Bijan, but if this did happen, if the Eagles did find a way to trade for Derrick Henry, there is absolutely no way you're going to get a single complaint out of me. I would be thrilled with that. And now finally, before we bring this video to a close, we must briefly discuss some boring but realistic options for the Eagles to upgrade their offense in this draft without making one of these splash moves, because it's definitely a possibility, at least what it seems like from recent reports, that the Eagles do take an offensive lineman with the 10th overall pick or at some point early in this draft, because obviously, the Eagles are a team that likes to build from the trenches, and it seems like the Eagles have interest in some of the top guys in this draft class, including Paris Johnson and Peter Skoronski. They've held pre-draft visits with both. And I could see either one of these guys going to the Eagles. They're probably the 2 best offensive linemen in this draft class, and they're the most NFL-ready offensive linemen in this draft class. And something interesting about Paris Johnson and Peter Skoronski, is that both these guys play the tackle position, but they do have the versatility required to move over and play guard effectively as well, and that's something you might see if they were to be selected by the Eagles, because obviously they lost Isaac Seumalo this offseason to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If they wanted to draft one of those guys and have them slide into the guard position and have Cam Jurgens develop a little bit more at center behind Jason Kelce, I think you could definitely see that as a realistic option. But even if they did take one of these guys and they didn't want to do that, they would still have their tackle of the future sitting behind Lane Johnson when he does end up eventually retiring, or God forbid something happens in terms of an injury. You would have a guy that's a great insurance policy there, and someone who could be set up for success as the Eagles starting tackle moving forward. So I definitely think it's going to be really interesting to see what the Eagles do early in this draft, especially in the first round. And in this video, I've just been talking about the options they have to upgrade their offense. I haven't even talked about the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to be coming out with a video in the coming days leading up to the draft talking about just that. So if you don't want to miss that and other videos just like this, again, make sure you go subscribe and turn on notifications. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like on it and leave a comment down below giving me your thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear all of them. And like I said earlier, again, we will be live for the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, so make sure you tune into that. And if you want to watch another Eagles video, you can go watch this one right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.